Okay, so today I have Francis Williams with me. He's an operations strategist and business coach who works specifically with HVAC business owners. Francis, congratulations on being the first guest to the Frenzy Foundered podcast. We haven't really been treating it a podcast up until now.
Great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being your first guest. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I'm always a little bit skeptical when I hear business coach, even though I do have a lot of respected business coaches that I've worked with, but I always think of somebody that's kind of smarmy and is gonna come and tell me like what I'm doing wrong and how to work harder. And so, how did you end up as a business coach?
Sure, absolutely. So in 1998, I had a house fire. I had to have a full home rebuild. I had a contractor that I was referred to by the insurance company, and it turned out that they were good in a lot of ways, but then they were very disappointing and upsetting in a lot of ways. So I got a very bad taste in my mouth about contractors. I actually had a life coach of my own at the time, and he was helping me work through how do I have productive, progressive conversations to get effective results versus like bitching and moaning and saying, oh, you messed this up, you messed that up, and complaining. So I realized at one point that I want to be a coach. And then I thought, what kind of coach do I want to be? So after being in BNI coaching business owners, I realized, hey, I love coaching home service business owners. I love coaching them on strategy. I like to watch great business owners build their companies. And I know they're smart, they're hardworking, they know how to fix everything under the sun, what they're working on because they're licensed for that. But most of the time, nobody taught them how to run a business. And so there's a gap. And that's where I live in that gap to help them bridge that gap between doing a great job for home owners and then running an excellent business.
Yeah, so you said something to me earlier offline about becoming a business, which I think by that you meant like the that business owners tend to just resolve everything by working more and working more and working more, and part of it's organizational that probably needs to be fixed and not so much just more work, right? So, what is that becoming a business phrase that you're trying to avoid? What does that mean to you?
Sure. So to give you some background, when I talk to the average HVAC business owner, they're working 60 to 70 hours a week. They're answering calls at dinner. So they're texting their crews late at night, 9, 10 p.m. So they're the scheduler, the salesperson, the complaint department. And sometimes they're out in the field still being the tech in the truck. So what they've built is a machine that prints money, but the machine doesn't run without them standing in it and or holding the wrench. So that's what I mean by becoming the business. They don't own a company, they own a very demanding job with several employees.
Okay. So, did you work in the trades yourself?
I did not. No, I have not. Got it. So I've been in and around service businesses for years. I've ran operations for different companies. And in those operations, I see the same patterns. So, for example, I'm not necessarily from the trades, but I'm in businesses that run operations like hospitality services that deal with customers face to face, where we have to deliver products for them. So, what I've noticed is that the owners or the managers start out doing great work, word spreads, they hire people, and then somewhere around employee 8 to 10, the wheels start wobbling. The owner or the manager thinks they need to work harder because they're still working in the business. And then the real problem is they're still operating like a one person shop instead of a 10-person company. So nothing is documented in those cases. No one knows who decides what to do. And then the owner is walking and talking like the company manual, but not having a company manual. And so that doesn't help them scale. So what I do is I help them create those systems to scale those businesses.
Yeah, so I'm feeling a little bit triggered here, being being the business owner that kind of does everything. And I'd like to have more team members, but even if I did, I'm not sure I would get organized around that. So, so what are the kind of like biggest few problems that you see that you can typically plug in to help resolve?
Sure. So not to trigger you more, but A lot of times, the number one thing I see is the owner as the bottleneck. So every decision runs through the owner. Every problem lands on that one desk, and it creates a ceiling that the business can't break. Two, is there no front end systems? So what I mean by that is stuff happens before the tech ever knocks on the door, like who answers the phone and who calls back the customer when there need to be callbacks. So how do we convert a quote into a book job? So most HVAC companies, they're losing 20 to 35% of their revenue, and they don't even know it because of those front end systems. Number three is the wrong people in the wrong seats. So when you get people, it's not that they're bad, they might be poorly placed for their talents. And so a great tech promoted to a manager with no training becomes a bad manager, even though that person was a great tech, maybe they should be a tech, and there should be a manager hired to that's been there, done that, and then they can come in and help the owner orchestrate.
Yeah. That's crazy. 20 to 35% loss just from what, not answering the phones or something like that?
Yes. And so one of the things I notice is that there's different seasons in home service businesses. And especially, I'm sure there's two major seasons in the HVAC business with heating and cooling, heating in the winter, cooling in the summer. And so during those peak seasons, let's say the phone rings and it's peak. So the phone's ringing more than the owner can handle. And so a lot of those phone calls will go to voicemail. One of the things I've done with my clients is help them set up AI systems so that they can either have the phone answered or text back a customer and say, hey, I see you called and I want to get a little more information about that. So, for example, a home service, sorry, not a home service, a home owner with a dead AC unit in August doesn't want to wait 4 hours. They're just going to pick up the phone and keep calling until they get someone to answer the phone. So if that customer is worth $500 or $1,500 a lifetime, and you miss four of those in a week, then there's that math of 20 to 35% roughly, and it's real money walking out the door because the system was built around a human being catching every ball, as opposed to, oh, I missed this one, I missed that one. You want to catch them all, even if it's a virtual assistant, AI, texting, voice callbacks, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like nuts. The seasonal businesses, you can just lose so much just not by not being ready during the season. I'll sort of liken it to like here in Mexico when I go to the market and at lunchtime and I like to get something quick to eat. A lot of people here that have little diners just don't know about systems, so they just don't do everything like it was the first time every time, and they probably let like a small business where people are struggling and not making a lot in the first place, they probably let a couple $100 go out the door every lunchtime because they're just not getting it together. They're just not attending to people the same way every time, so it's always a mess. Do these business owners usually know what that this leak is happening?
I think if they know it, it's probably an internal feeling. Sometimes they know it and they don't necessarily know how to say it, but they can feel it as almost like intuition or a feeling. So they know something's wrong, but they're so deep in the day to day, they can't step back and say, hey, let me take a bird's eye view or a 30,000-foot view, as people say in the airlines. And they can say, okay, I see a missed call. I need to answer the phone faster. Or they don't see the structure that makes the call their problem in the first place. So they don't step back and say, how is this set up? Oh, this is the setup. This is why I missed the call. Fix the setup, get the calls, keep the business running. Don't lose the 20 to 35%.
So so you're coming in, you're trying to dip in, dip out, and be as effective as possible, not necessarily just sell them software or tell them to post more on the socials. So, like, kind of what does that look like for these HVAC owners working with you?
Sure. So, in terms of having product in a coaching relationship, that's really up to the customer. But when we come in to start, we look at three things. We look at their operations, we look at their leadership, we look at their energy. So, operations is the boring stuff that makes the magic happen, like the day to day, the phone scripts, callback protocols, who owns what decision. And then there's documentation that lets the business run when the owner isn't there. So, for example, like if you had a leak, you would call the plumber, right? If you weren't the owner, you wouldn't call the owner and say, "Hey, we have a leak." So, but some people do that. So, in the empowered sense with the employees, if they know there's that mini fire, they know what to do because of that documentation. In terms of leadership, this is about getting the right people in the right seats, teaching the owner how to lead instead of just being the nicest boss on the truck. Because what if an employee shows up late, or what if they have a habit and then the owner needs to take them aside and say, "Hey, we need to have a conversation." That's where energy comes in. So energy is the piece most coaches skip. Most coaches aren't even certified to train on energy. They may or may not understand energy. So I operate from a 7 levels of energy framework. It's a map to show people how to be their best despite any circumstance. So, for example, there's apathy, like, I don't want to do anything, let somebody else do it. There's anger, like, wow, you showed up late, I'm really pissed off. There's forgiveness, like, all right, you showed up late, we're going to deal with it, let's just keep going. There's compassion, which is, okay, I'm going to make sure whatever I do, that you over there, you win. There's peace, which is win-win, and meaning everybody wins. And then there's joy, meaning no matter what happens, everybody's going to win all the time. And then there's like the highest level called absolute passion. I call it love as well. That just means that life is a game to be played. You don't win or lose. There's no such thing as like levels of energy. There's no such thing as something's wrong, something's right. It just is, and you just create despite that. So most owners, especially HVAC owners I meet, are running on anger. Like 80 to 90% of people are too. They're running on caffeine. It's true. There were studies done saying 80 to 95% of the world are fear and anger. Turn on the
Oh,
TV, open social media. You know what I mean?
well, I've known some HVAC owners, and I guess I would just be, I would just say this all sounds maybe a little bit kumbaya for the calloused hands HVAC owners that I've known.
Yes, absolutely. And I get that. So when people hear energy, they're like, energy, what the heck is that? Or science, what the heck is that? I'm dealing in reality. And so here's the thing of my perspective. You can have the best systems, and if the owner is showing up exhausted, they're just reacting to everything, they have a short fuse, or their systems break anyway. The owner is the ceiling. So basically, wherever they are, everybody else is going to match that energy. So their energy determines what the company can become. So I don't talk about chakras or crystals. I talk about whether you're making decisions from a place of, yeah, I talk about whether or not you're making a decision from a place of panic or a place of clarity. Like, that the shit's hitting the fan, but you're like, all right, hold on, let's take a breath, let's take a beat, let's observe what's happening, let's zoom out. And that matters when you're deciding whether you hire your sixth tech or you fire a dispatcher who's been there for 3 years who isn't producing. So the energy behind those decisions changes everything.
Yeah, okay. I spent a couple of years living in an eco village, so I kind of understand the power of energy, but even I'm still usually a little bit skeptical, but as long as we uh, keep it practical and there's a real purpose behind it, then it makes a lot of sense to me. So maybe just give me a little glimpse into, we don't have a whole lot of time left, but give me a little glimpse into a client that you've worked with and how that went.
Sure. So I'll speak about a client that I work with who is an HVAC owner. One of the things I like to say in terms of energy is garbage in, garbage out. I know people know that terminology. So if you put in good inputs, you should get out good inputs, right? So I was working with Anthony of Comfort Master in New York State when I lived in New York. And so he's running an HVAC business, and he was in my BNI group. So I was in Business Networking International, where there's one owner per business, right? So I was the coach, he was the HVAC person, and there were about 15 other people in our group. He hired me to help him do several things. So he had a 5-man team. He was in the field with that team every day, so he had to go from one job to the next. He didn't have time for himself. He didn't have anybody answering the phones. He didn't have anybody doing his books. He is married at the time. His wife is a real estate agent. They're both busy professionals. So when I came in and I helped him organize, there's a testimony from him on my LinkedIn as well. I came in and helped him organize his business. He permanently removed himself from the field to create strategy. He hired someone to answer the phone, an actual person, not AI, not a virtual assistant, a real assistant. He hired a business coach to help him with his accounting, his finance, his books, that kind of thing. So he had 2 coaches, which I applaud him for. And then he was able to make more moves in terms of taking on more techs. He was able to work with more customers from a distance. If his expertise was needed, he'd be on the phone. And if he absolutely needed to be in the field, he would show up in the field if need be. But his techs were so proficient, they were replacing him in the field. So, one of the compliments he gave to me, which I didn't even realize was coming my way when he gave his testimony, was that he made more money in that quarter and was on track for making more money in that year than he had ever made in his business. And he was on track to make more even the next year. So I thought to myself, great, I'm glad I was a part. I wasn't the only piece because he had to do the work, but I was a part of that component that helped him scale his business, build his optimal team, and have his free time.
So, yeah, like something that resonated for me is backing out of, I don't know how you said it, but backing out of doing the work yourself. And about like 7 or 8 months ago, I stopped coding. Like
Mm.
I said, I'm not writing any more code for the build run kit because I'm just too into this. And then I'm also like a programmer for I've been one for many, many years, but I'm a little vibe coding now because I haven't kept my skills up to date. So once I plugged in somebody real, I needed to just back off and let him excel because it's just going to cause more problems me trying to rush things along and be involved. And so I backed out. I feel really good about it. I'm still stressed out sometimes, but that really helps my business more than just about anything else I've done. So this is really great. How do people start working with you, or how do you pick up customers, or how do you connect with them?
Sure. So I have a few ways. One of them is my school community. It has a curriculum, it has leadership courses, it has energy framework, it has operation templates. I just created a course, the home service business owner playbook last weekend that I released onto that platform. They're all free. So you can go and learn at your own pace. Some are video, audio, or just reading the text that's there. If you prefer the format and you say, hey, I want you to make this an audio so I can listen to it while I'm driving, let me know. I'll do that. For owners who want direct help, I do one-to-one coaching or small group coaching. Right now, I'm focusing on taking on 15 HVAC owners specifically so I can go deep in the industry. As a specialty, I want to expand and learn, what are these specific pain points that I'm not aware of that you'll help me become aware of. Number one, for you, the business owner, the HVAC owner, specific to what you're doing. And before I even book any coaching one to one or group, what I like to do is have a discovery session. And believe it or not, I like to have three. I like to have a coffee chat just to get to know you, to see what you're doing. Then I like to have a strategy session so we can create strategy about what you're up to right now and for the next week. Then I like to have a follow up. That way, when we do those sessions, if you prefer to have one, we could do that all in one, but I prefer to have three. So one, you have time to digest, our conversations, and that you give yourself an assignment. Say, this week I'm going to work on being less volatile, or I'm going to work on being earlier to the client's place of business where I'm working, or whatever it is. Then you can get yourself into a new habit. Then we can follow up and see, does this work for you? Am I a good fit? And if I'm not, I'd love helping business owners find a good fit in their network and in my network.
Okay, great. Well, so yeah, just to rewind all the way back to the beginning, I think I accused you of being smarmy or something because you're a business coach.
Nice.
No, what I was trying to get to there was like to see like what value you really have, and I think you've shown it. And so I think business coaches really are important, and I think that there are a lot of good ones, and that you just have to really find one that works for your
Yes.
mindset, or one that you're able to sort of resonate with. So I guess that's all I have for today. Francis has a website called francisxwilliams.com. He's also on LinkedIn, and he's posting there pretty regularly. And so if you want to book that discovery call, you could reach him any one of those ways. And I will include all of our links in the bio. And then hopefully, this is just like a harbinger of things to come. Francis and I are collaborating on a platform that the Build Run Kit is going to release to be able to assign kind of journeys and work to business owners and aspiring founders to sort of work through some of these things and get their business even more up to speed. And
Yes. Great. Thanks, Brent, for having me on the podcast. I'm so glad to have been your first guest. And I look forward to see more of what you're bringing us with Build Run Kit, more of what you're helping founders, coaches, and business owners with. And I'll speak with you soon.